All right, thank you everybody for joining. This is the CS and Sec PM sync for July, and this will be the public portion. So we'll be discussing product updates and other things that are safe to talk about publicly, and then we'll move on to the private portion. So let me go ahead and let me share my screen. Find the right window. All right. So just to start off with some product updates, Grant, did you want to talk about the first one here?
Sure can. Yeah, so we just released the Spina feature flag. We'll be enabling CI/CD pipelines in the target projects that are being enforced by scan execution policies. An example scenario for customers might be that they want to enforce secret detection or SAS scans across all of their projects, and some repos may not be set up for builds, and they would ultimately be circumventing any global enforcement of running secret detection or SAS scans, for example. So what we're going to be doing with this release is for any target project will automatically kind of behind the scenes enable CI/CD, create that GitLab CI YAML file, and that will allow us to inject the jobs that we need to enforce from a global perspective.
Right. The next one was in the release post, but I just wanted to call it out here. The automatic response to revoking Google Cloud tokens when it's discovered on GitLab. And then let's see if it'll jump down. The shared rule set customizations between SAST, IAC, and secret detection. You can click on that if you want more information. I don't know if this is going to jump down to the right place. Right, and then the exporting compliance frameworks report. So we added the compliance frameworks report to the group level compliance center area, and you can now export that to CSV if you need that in a format that's outside of GitLab. We added an option here to allow developers to force push to a protected branch when there are no other branches in the project. So this one was added specifically because we got a lot of feedback that once you create a protected branch, no one can, or the developers can't push to it immediately. So that first push, we're allowing any developer in the project to start, and then after that, it will follow the same settings as the fully protected setting. So that's available in the project settings now. And then Grant, you've got the next one.
Yeah, just wanted to also highlight another one that we're working on right now that's behind feature flag. And we've been working on this for a while. There probably will be several iterations in the logic for how we compare scan results and identify like when we want to actually require an approval. But we've had a number of customers who have kind of felt that it's confusing when approvals are required and when they're not. And that's what we're working on doing here, is increasing that accuracy and kind of improving on what customers are expecting and what we're showing there. So ultimately, we'll be comparing the latest completed pipelines for each pipeline source for the source and target branch. This is with the exception of parent-child pipelines, which we think is much rarer of a use case, but we may work to add that in the future. I'm trying to think, a good example here is if customers are trying to run their security scanners overnight in a scheduled scan, we might be missing results from that. So we're kind of opening it up to capture results from more pipeline sources, not just the kind of the MR pipelines or kind of the default branch pipelines that we've been using. So this will definitely improve the number of results that we're capturing and comparing against, and we think it's going to help a lot of customers. It's behind a feature flag where we've asked a few customers to kind of explore and see if this is solving for them. So if anyone is having this issue on your end that you'd like to highlight or raise to me, we could definitely work on getting a feature flag enabled for SaaS if they're a SaaS customer, and would be interested in their feedback on if this is solving for them.
All right. And then Alana, did you want to talk about yours?
Yeah, so we are going to have the first iteration of the group subgroup level dependency list. The only thing different from this screenshot right here is there won't be search or filtering enabled for this first iteration. And then we're optimizing some queries, so we are leaving it behind a feature flag for 16.2, and by the end of the month we should have those queries resolved and optimized for performance, and so it should be available by default in 16.3, and then we have some other iterations that we'll start working on immediately after.
Awesome.
Cool. If there's no questions on that one, I have point 2 here, and I shared this in our CSPMSec thread previously. I might have even spoken in one of our previous meetings about this, but we are working on a user study for unifying compliance pipelines and security policies. I've got the 2 related epics linked there. So we're ready to start sending this out. I've actually sent it to a couple of customers, wanted to see how the test holds up before we go more broadly. But if you have any customers that are actively using compliance pipelines or security policies, it would be great to have some additional participants to join our study. So feel free to reach out to me. We can talk more about that or view that thread. You can also respond there and see some more details about what I'm looking for. But yeah, let me know. Thank you.
All right, if there's nothing around that, I wanted to point out some updates that we haven't put into the release post, but I know that some of you have run into problems with DAST and it locking up on some benchmark or demo applications. I know, Mirko, you've specifically called this out multiple times. We've done a couple of things that I'm hoping will open it up and help out with that. We've been able to get through a couple of different benchmark apps that we haven't been able to before. So the 2 main issues that we solved. One was a panic with the Go logger that was causing the analyzer to lock up and crash. So we replaced that with a logger that does not, or that is more stable with the standard Go logger. Previously, we were using one that seemed stable enough, but recently, looking at their issues on their GitHub account, there's multiple issues coming in from different customers of theirs talking about panics and crashing. So we replaced that. And then the second one that's actually more relevant is that we have changed the logic around how we run passive checks for DAST. Previously, what we were doing is we were running the crawler. When the crawler was done, it would start the passive check service, and it would pull all the stuff out of the queue and start checking it. Now we are actually running the passive checks along at the same time as the crawler. So as the crawler finds something new, it puts it into the queue. The passive checks are immediately working on it to get through as many of the items as possible. That means that even if the queue does fill up, which is unlikely when they're running in parallel, But even if it did, it wouldn't stay that way for very long. So the test would not lock up, and it'll keep adding stuff to the queue as the passive check service pulls things out of that queue to run through the passive checks. So I'm hoping that this will address a lot of the locks that we've seen with DAST, especially on these demo applications. So if any of you have run benchmarks or demos in the past and it's locked up, if you could try it again and see if it works, I would appreciate it. If it doesn't work, let me know, and we will jump back on it to see what might be affecting that specific scan. All right, and then the next one, if you haven't seen, I'm actually moving to the create stage to be the group manager there. So this meeting will still happen. We'll transition it to another PM in sec. We haven't really discussed who exactly will take over it, but I'm sure someone will volunteer, and we'll get this running with another DRI. But just as an FYI, that's happening on next Monday is my official start date as the group manager there. And then Sarah, you've got the last item here.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it before, but we got some customer feedback that customers would like more consistency around what languages and versions we're supporting between SAST and SCA tools. So we're currently working on defining that, and we just wanted to make sure everyone's aware so that we can get additional feedback if any of you have anything that you want to contribute.
All right, any comments or questions here on this section before we move on to the private discussion? Cool. Doesn't look like it. I will stop the recording and start it again.